name's Ricky Analog. This is the Sunday Prep.
Alright guys, I hope you had a great weekend. I hope you spent some quality time with friends and family, away from the screens. You know, the reason why we do what we do. Yeah. So real quick, in case you haven't heard, me and the Wall Street coach, Kim Ann Curtin, we started a new Instagram live series. It's called Method and Mindset, where we bring on a guest trader and we tackle the technical and the mental aspects of their trading and try to give them some useful tools and tips to help them moving forward. Now, everything's recorded and archived, so you can go watch it at a later time, but it's all over at TrueTrader's Instagram page. It's not on mine, it's not on Kim, so make sure you go over, get on Instagram, go to TrueTrader's Instagram, and follow them. That way you'll get notified whenever we go live. It is on a schedule. We do this every other Thursday, 5 p.m. market time, so we hope to see you over there. Now, as always, before we move forward, please do me the solid of going and following our YouTube channel. Subscribe, turn on the notifications. I keep trying to remind you guys, we are putting out more and more content and you don't want to miss it. So if you turn on those notifications, you will get an alert that something new has come out, such as Midweek Watch by the Goose himself, the man, the myth, the legend, the bird. Yeah, you guys don't want to miss this. Every Wednesday he is putting out a watch list for Thursday, Friday, and they're just amazing. And it's just such another great tool to put in your belt. So make sure you do that. And of course, if you like what we're putting out, give it the thumbs up, you know. And if you don't, go ahead, do the thumbs down. I don't mind. I can take some criticism. But if you want to leave a thumbs down, do me another favor and at least have the balls to tell us what it is you would like us to see do better. Don't just leave a thumbs down and be a wuss. Come on, you keyboard warriors. Let's go. Bring it. Bring the heat. All right. So the one note I have for this week moving forward, what I want to do better personally, and I always do this at the beginning of every week, I have something to improve on or work on. This week is patience. It's not just patience with letting trades come to me, but it's also patience in letting them work once I get great entries. There was actually a few trades last week that, even though they were good trades, they could have been monsters had I just been patient. So if that resonates with you, if it hits home, make sure you remind yourself, do what it takes, even if that just means leaving a partial on just to see it go to your final targets. Sometimes even just that final small little piece on can be a game changer, not just in terms of P&L, but in terms of what it does for you mentally moving forward for letting trades work. All right, so let's get into the meat and potatoes, guys. As always, neither I nor TrueTrader or any of its affiliates are registered securities broker dealers. I am not a licensed financial advisor. Anything I talk about today is just my opinion. It's not a solicitation to buy or sell anything. And whatever you hear today is for informational and educational purposes only. So let's get started. All right, guys, so here is the ES, the SPY futures, and we got that big pullback to the 50-day / monthly pivot, and it bounced. Very nice bounce. Support showed up. Everything looks healthy and good. So moving forward this week, I'm going to be looking for that same level, the monthly and the 50-day, as the first real key level of support. Obviously, we do still have that. You can see the pink line drawn from the previous support. Obviously, it got through there last week. It still may act as support, even though it got through there, it quickly reclaimed. So first level support, the 50-day to monthly. After that, not much in the way of support till you get down to that monthly / annual pivot area around 4270. In terms of resistance, all-time highs is the first real area, and then after that, maybe we finally head up towards that 4500 area. Moving on, here is the NQ. And again, 50-day retrace bounce almost to the T. Who says technical analysis doesn't work? Seriously. So again, those levels will be the first areas of key support. And then after that, obviously we do have the monthly pivot down there, the 14.5 area. I'd rather see that low from, late July, I guess mid-July. The lows from mid-July would be a much healthier area of support for me. And then obviously way down below, I don't think there's much of a chance of us getting down there this coming week, but that ever so important 14K area, which was the bigger area breakout. You know, when and if we do have significant corrections in the market, those are the areas that I look to for bigger picture terms of support, because it's always nice to see a breakout area like that get retested. We haven't, right? We've just kind of grinded higher, pullbacks or just snap right back up. So like if that were to happen, those are the levels I look for. But until something in the market waves the red flag and says, yo, be cautious, I'm still going to play these nearer term levels of support, especially with strong stocks that are also at their key levels. So this is for obviously the tech sector. It's the NASDAQ futures. So anything that's a strong tech stock that's also pulling back to support, if we were to come into support on the NQ, is something that's going to be a go-to for me for possible long setups. And then obviously to the upside, resistance would be, again, all-time highs. And then after that, you have the monthly pivot up there around 15.2. Next, we move on to our Bitcoin, which is for me the index for crypto. Obviously, Bitcoin is its own cryptocurrency, but most of the other cryptocurrencies follow this stuff, right? So I always look at the BTC chart as kind of my index. And again, you know, for the longest time after we had that big sell-off, I was constantly saying, if we go sideways for a nice healthy period of time, then when we get the breakout up or below the channel, I feel like the move could be sustained. And so we did. We got a nice, decent base. It was almost 2.5 months or so of sideways action before trying to push higher or lower. And what are we seeing? We're seeing follow through. And it's still looking super bullish here. We're still making higher lows and higher highs. So right now, you know, we're testing that ever so important psychological 50,000 level, right? We always talk about psychological numbers, 5, 10, 20, 50K. It's all the same, right? Price always gravitates towards those halves and wholes. And so right now, that's what we're kind of testing. Will we get through it? I don't know, but it's definitely an interesting area to watch. The next level of interest for me for resistance is going to be that quarterly pivot up there around 57,000, which is also, if you look at the chart, it's a retest of the last long trigger we had that failed, which created the failed long trigger that sent us tumbling, right? So if you understand the importance of failed long triggers, then you understand what I'm talking about. If not, come over to TrueTrader. We definitely talk about it plenty. So I will be watching that as the next level. As far as support goes, I think it's obvious. You have so many pieces of evidence in the same area. You got the 200-day, the 20-day, the annual pivot, and the monthly pivot, all in a tight little area. So that would be the area I'm looking for support if this thing decides to pull back. And I say support, I mean high probability that you get bounces from that level. Now, Bitcoin's actually really interesting to me because I always say this, I don't trade cryptos, but I do trade crypto-related equities, and there's plenty of them that are setting up. So you got MARA, Riot, CAN, SOS, COIN. COIN's like a bigger name, right? There's definitely the argument to be made that a lot of the names I named before COIN are just pieces of shit, whatever. It's not about having a bias, it's about recognizing what the broader market's doing, what's the bigger picture. I think there are some trades setting up, so those will be things on watch for me moving forward. All right, moving right into our sector analysis over here at barchart.com. Go into stocks, stock market sectors, and sort them by matrix short term. This is what I personally do. There's also, listen, you guys can also go in here stocks and look at the industry rankings. I've done previous Sunday preps where I showed you guys how to do that. I do still do that as well. But just for the sake of keeping this a little bit more succinct, I just show you guys this. Now, one of the things I want to point out is a little nuance to how I use this. So obviously we're looking for what sectors have been strong and what sectors have been weak. And it's very obvious to me, right? Energy has been weak. It's staying weak. But then you come up here and you see something like the financials had a very weak week. Hopefully you understand what I'm saying. Weak. But something I do that I haven't really talked about is I'll come over here to, I have a watch list of all the sector ETFs, and I will go through these chart by chart, right? And I'm just analyzing the ETF charts, no different than I would look at a stock chart. So let's take a look at the financial sector here. This is XLF, it's the financial ETF. All we've done is pulled back to levels of key support. You got the 20-day, the monthly pivot, and this is a strong looking chart. Contrast that with the energy chart, XLE, right above it. Look, this is a broke ass chart. We lost the 200-day, we keep making lower lows and lower highs. So it should be night and day, the difference between these two sectors. So you can't just look at the performance here and think that you can just look at just the cover of the book, right? You need to see what's inside the book. And that's what I do with these sector ETFs. And the way I use that information is this. So usually you'll hear me say I want to stay away from longing sectors that are weak, and I want to put money to work in the strong sectors, for at least for longs, right? And for shorting things, I'd preferably look to short stocks in sectors that are weak. But just saying that the financial sector's been weak, once you look at the ETF, you go, look, it's not weak, it's just pulling back. So I will actually look for financial stocks in that sector that also have charts that are interesting to me for longs. Even though the sector was weak last week, right? It's just a pullback. As opposed to the energy sector where the chart's broke. Now again, what I'm thinking when I look at this chart is it's probably a little overdone and due for a bounce. Does that mean I want to long energy stocks? It doesn't. But what it does for me is it tells me look for bounces back into resistance on the energy stocks for your short entries. It means don't be shorting down here because you might be shorting in the hole and it just rips in your face. Then you get stopped out only to watch the thing roll over and end up working in the end, right? So use that in conjunction with the bar chart stuff to figure out how you're going to have your plan of attack for the week moving forward. I hope that helps. All right, so let's get into the actual ideas for the week. First, we start with the long setups. We go to the strong stocks looking for continuation. And we have NVDA. Now, do you guys remember what I said in the webinar I did on the earnings about NVIDIA? Well, here's a shameless plug. If you haven't, here's the link right here. Go check that out, and you'll hopefully get some insight as to why I'm actually happy to see this right here. So on the chart, you can see we had the earnings come out. We've had 2 very solid days on very high volume, and we are now breaking out to all-time highs almost on a very, very bullish candle here on the daily chart. But I don't want to chase it, right? So the idea here is a retrace back to this 202 pocket, which there is obviously the breakout from these highs here, and it's also a fib retrace to that level. I really see this thing going 220, 225 near term. And obviously, I mean, NVIDIA's been on a tear for a long time. Who knows? Maybe it's 300 plus in the next few months. I don't know. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to take meat of the move on actionable day trade ideas. So I think if we get early weakness and panic flush kind of off the open Monday and we come in a bit, I think there's definite levels here where we can look to scoop this thing long and see if it wants to get that eventual breakout. Now, if it were to gap up and just either gap up or instead of pulling back, just push right off the open, I'm not chasing this thing. You got 7 points of range, and if you guys follow NVIDIA, it can be extremely strong, but it's also very at the whim of the market. So the market could roll over and this thing look hella strong and then just comes right in. So I don't want to be chasing this. You want to be buying the weakness and joining trend. So that's the idea on NVIDIA. So the next idea for this section is COF. And like I said, guys, straight from the sector analysis section of the Sunday Prep, the financial sector pulled back to support. And what do you have here? A strong looking name that's pulled back to support. You got the monthly pivot and the 20-day right there. And you can see on that daily candle from Friday, tried to test lower, got bought back up. You got the nice wick at the bottom. So what I'll be watching for on Monday is probably just some early weakness. I don't know where we pull back to, but I'll be looking to get long this name, risking Friday's lows. I think we have a good opportunity for this thing to turn back around here and head back to all-time highs. And the next section is oversold reversion setups. And the first one is VRM. This is right from last week's Sunday prep. Obviously came into the levels we were looking for, but the next day it just pushed straight down, so there was no trade. This week the levels are the second tier level from last Sunday's prep, the 22-23 area. I would like to see an emotional flush down there, see if we get some spots to scoop. Really think this thing is getting a bit overdone here. I think when it does bounce, we're going to have a nice 2, 3, 4 point trade on the name. Obviously the range, the ATR is only 2 points, but I think on that day where we get the rebound, I think there's the possibility of leaving a piece on for a swing and to see if it continues through to the next day or two. So that's the idea on VRM. My next idea on watch is BABA, and I was actually using the weekly in the blog post, so I'll start there. Look guys, this is from all-time lows to all-time highs. We've come right into the 61.8% fib level. This is quite the impressive pullback. Not gonna lie, I did not foresee this coming in this much, but it has. And so we just we play what we're given. I do think it's getting overdone. I think at the very least we get some form of relief bounce, and you can see when you look at the daily that this thing is really kind of getting extended down here. And let's see here. Basically the idea for me is I want that capitulation. I want the longer term people that maybe bought on Friday that, you know, thought the lows were in to puke. I want the longer term guys to puke. I want this thing to just capitulate. So the first area I'm looking at is that you see the quarterly pivot down there at 144. So 145 to 144. I don't think 152 is far enough away. When I talk about capitulation, I want to see this flush. Now, there is the chance it doesn't. There's the chance that this thing actually just maybe gaps up. If that's the case, there is the opportunity to try to play this with risk under Friday's lows. I may look to do that as well, because I think when this thing turns, there's going to be substantial amount of meat to that move, and I don't want to miss that. So I will be watching BABA for that bounce. Moving on to the short setups. Weak stocks looking for continuation. I saw a lot of them when I was doing my scans this weekend. I'm only putting 3 in this prep, but trust me, there's a ton more. And you'll see the charts I'm about to show you. You'll find a lot of charts out there that look very similar. So the first one is BLNK. And if you look at this, we're flirting with a major breakdown level. Let me turn off the pivots and look at a higher time frame with you guys, just so you can see what it is. You guys can see we lose these lows from July, and this thing could really come down. First level would be 26. You got 20, the psychological level of 25, and then after that, there's nothing till 15. I really think Blink's in trouble. I think it looks very vulnerable here. So if you go, let's flip back to the daily chart. You can see I have alerts set for 2 different scenarios. If we lose those July lows, then I'm going to look to short pops join trend. The other option is if we somehow get pops back into the 20-day, there's also the annual pivot right there in that 33.5 area. I would definitely entertain smacking that if we got a big pop. If it gets through there, the next level is obviously the 50-day, 200-day, and the monthly pivot right up there around 35. So that is BLNK. So the next idea from this section is FUBO, F-U-B-O. And if you remember what I was talking about with Bitcoin, long trigger, fails to get to a target, rolls over, failed longs. Check this out. Definitely had a long trigger here, and we talked about that in the Sunday prep from the week where this had the earnings, right? We said if we got over 28.5, that's a long trigger. This thing could get going. It has failed miserably since then. So if it comes under these 24, let's just call it 24.5, there could be some follow through to the downside. So that's why I have that. You'll see that alert set there. I think it's got room to come into 20/19, maybe even lower in a single move, like a single day. Obviously, I would like to, once it triggers that, I would like to short pops and join trend, just like I was saying with BLNK. Same idea as BLNK as well. If we pop back into the 20-day, 50-day, 200-day monthly pivot, that area up there looks really thick now. I can't imagine this thing slamming up there emotionally and being able to get through. So any sort of emotional pop into those levels of resistance, I'll be hammering that as well. So 2 different ways I might play FUBO. All right, and the last idea from here is ARKK, the ARK ETF. And if you remember 2 Sunday preps ago, I think I had this name in here, and it's come in nicely since then, and I still think there's more downside. So again, you see I have the trigger marked below this 113.5 area. Again, would look to join trend, shorting pops with defined risk, or pops back into the 20-day. I know it sounds repetitive, but that's the way these things work. If you get an emotional spike up into these levels of resistance, I'm there. I'm there to put my trade on with some risk management and see if we get that quick pullback to give us padding, and then see if it rolls over further. Now, Michael Burry, the famous guy from The Big Short, I'm sure a lot of you guys know him, came out last week publicly as being short ARK. And if I had to pick between him and Cathie Wood, it's kind of a no-brainer. It actually really makes me kind of happy to see that, like, the king of due diligence says that his analysis on the fundamentals lines up perfectly with what the chart's telling me. Makes me actually smile inside. So we'll be watching ARKK for a short this coming week. All right, the next section is overbought reversion setups, and I have the first one being Agilent. So I would love to see this one speed up more, get a little more extreme. Obviously, we have that 177 quarterly pivot up there. That's quite a bit of ways, especially when it's only got a 2.5 to the ATR is 265 currently. You'll always hear me say this. I want it more extreme. I want that parabolic move that you see stuff and gives us that really A+ setup. But I cannot ignore the fact of what it's done historically anytime we get this far away from the 20-day. You see here, slam down. Here, slam down. Like, you don't see any situations where this name peels away this fast and this far from the 20-day before gravity kicks in. So I will be watching for lower highs on intraday for a way to get involved in this short with defined risk. I'll take paper cuts if I have to, but I do feel like this thing's coming back in to at least test the 20-day. Obviously, the longer it takes to set up and happen, the higher the 20-day will have moved. But there's plenty of meat on this bone as far as I'm concerned at the moment. All right, and the last name on this Sunday prep is BLL. So 97, I basically want this breakout on the daily chart here to give us that pop, that parabolic spike into this 97 area. I have written down 97 to 100. I'm probably not just going to ride it all the way up to 100. If I take my shot at 97, if we get the spike up there and it doesn't work, I'll cut and re-enter right at that psychological level of 100. You got the quarterly pivot there as well. But you can just see this thing. Obviously, we did have a pullback. We caught the 200 days, so it's not like it's just been straight up, but it is getting extended, and we are pretty damn far from the 20-day at this point. So I will be watching BLL. Guys, that's it for me this week. We do have some earnings still ahead of us. It's definitely the craziness is kind of behind us. There's only a few more names that are really that interesting to me, and it's no surprise what's happened. Small caps have picked back up. A lot of these small caps have really caught some big moves. So I'm getting excited for what's to come. Make sure you have a plan. That's what this is about, right? I don't want you to copy my ideas. I want you to see why I have these ideas and see how you can make them yours. I want to inspire you guys to make the same kind of preparation that I make, not just on the weekends, but every day. Because if you fail to prepare, you better prepare to fail. And that's the honest truth, guys. So see you guys bright and early tomorrow. Let's get ready to crush this week ahead. Peace.